Good morning, Vietnam. My tweak for the day, and I don't mean tweak like the app tweak. I mean tweaking something. Uh, the difference between I need to find the spelling between tweak, not not TWEE, whatever that is. The tweak of the website, not the website. They got Facebook, they got Instagram, they got Twitter. Um, they have so many different where you could they have what do you call it? The famous for the kids uh what do you call gee, I use it all the time. Um, TikTok. Gee, man, that was a mind blowing. Can't even. I don't write my notes. I don't make notes when I try to uh, come up with a diary, because that means that I won't let it. I won't let it. It won't. If I have to write notes when I make a video, I call it meaningless, because it wouldn't be a real diary. A real diary is just to blow smoke. And technically, I'm not making these diaries to blow smoke up people's ass. Um, I'm just documenting as much as I can, and I don't use any platforms anymore. I'm gonna have to figure out that I have to file for the whatever message, whatever the diary video that I make. I need to make a folder um, where I like to keep it. Um, just pretty much the idea, if you make a diary, uh, if you make a video diary, back in the days, it was only a diary where you have to write it. I like to do both because I want to practice of actually being in front of a camera and expressing myself without going duh. You know that stupidity where you're supposed to be smart but you always wind up with the duh. That's so pathetic. So hmm, I like to come up with my explanation without having any notes. Uh, so there's room for being confused of things because it's not rehearsed. You see, it's something that it's your complete thought of the day without being filtered, as far as being refined or uh, well, I do spell check. There are certain things when I write, I do make some. Um, um, Look, everyone's gonna make dumb mistakes. That's why it's considered to proofread what you say, because you'll be able to pick it up before you post it, or you, it's just human nature to make mistakes where if you don't proofread it, or in school they taught you to check your math. There's different ways to check your math to see whether if you hand in your paper you'll be able to really back up your math. um, if you really want a good grade, not everybody wants a good grade. um, I consider myself a perfectionist at times, and so checking my math is something that it's very important to me to check my math. Anyway, look, my major point to getting into this, making a video and taking some time. Right now, I'm on Mom's organic market. I already know that it's going to be expensive. Um, this is Paramus. This is a very expensive. This is a very expensive. I believe that it's not. I'm still checking, scoping the area to finding out what's it like. But I'm sure that it's a very. So far, I go to Crunch Gym in Paramus. And what makes a difference between going to Crunch Gym, which is, I find it ironic, is that I would consider myself like, I don't know, I mean, I would have to really blow people's mind when I write or when I speak as well. So if I offend anyone, suck it up. I'm not gonna say sorry. Suck it up and just keep it moving. Okay? There's no such thing as being apologetic when you actually have freedom of speech. Okay? So anyway, going forward and explaining my point, going to Paramus, I was like, wow. I was shocked. Because I feel like the Little Rascals. I feel like I'm in like somewhat of a story of the Little Rascals, which means is that I would consider myself buckwheat. You see, when I say I consider myself buckwheat, I'm going to clean it up, and I'm trying to convey my complete point. Buckwheat, if anyone knows the Little Rascals, buckwheat was the only black person in the series. It was a fantastic series that I grew up, and if anybody knows buckwheat, they probably can figure out my age. Because buckwheat is not something that you can actually, the Little Rascals is not something that, I don't know when they ended their last series in buckwheat. I wouldn't say buckwheat. Buckwheat was one of the characters. Was only the black characters. There was only one black character, and there was another one that was a Jewish character, which means is that I didn't have a clue of what he was Jewish, because he wore a hat. He wore one of those funny looking hats. The Jewish people actually have pride, and they want to express themselves, how important they are into the world. I can get into I can dive into that particular topic, and would consider myself racist like Hitler. If I can get into that topic, I will be Hitler's brother in the story. And by the way, I would do a better job, to get technical. You see? But that's a different topic. I already opened up a can of worms. Anyway. Trying to convey my point, and trying to, without getting distracted and going and deviating to another point and another avenue, is that I like it. I like the idea of actually being the only buckwheat. I wouldn't say the only buckwheat, because I'm not the only buckwheat going into Crunch Paramus, because I wouldn't say diverse, but I would say that I'm not the only color boy. Let's just say that I'm not the only color boy. And I consider myself a color boy because my grandfather was a black Englishman. And even though if I look like I'm Spanish, I'm not 100% Spanish. Because of my grandfather being a black Englishman, from England, by the way, which means that it was very proper. I can go to another avenue again. I'm deviating to another avenue as far as my grandfather and what's he like to be, what was his story about being an African American black man, marrying my grandmother, a Dominican. It's a different, it's different avenues, but I can dive into what my grandfather was like based on what my mother said about my grandfather. I did meet him when I was very young, and so I have an understanding of who my grandfather is. For both my mother's side, my father's side. I know my grandmother and I know my grandfather from both sides, which is fortunate because most people don't even know their grandparents because it's anyway. Going forward and making my major point of why I made a video. It's already 11 minutes past. Alright, so my truck was full of, still is, of dirty clothes. And I ran out of white shirts. If anybody knows me, if they didn't see me wearing white, there was a problem. So I ran out of white shirts. And by the way, I have 20 white shirts, so I don't have to run to the nearest dry cleaner or wash machine. And by the way, if you want to get technical, I don't take the time to iron. I don't have a girlfriend, and I don't even want my girlfriend to iron for me anymore. I'm not, even if I'm old school, I don't want my wife, my future wife, I would say, to do any ironing. Even though my mother spoiled me, and being the only boy, because I grew up with two sisters, I wasn't like, that's another avenue. Oh gee, what my mother was like. My major point, I'm gonna stick to my major point. And the reason why I like to make videos, because I want to stick to the point. And sometimes the reason why I call it diary is because sometimes I deviate to a different avenue, and I skip the major point of why I wanted to make a video. So I just needed a second to breathe and get my thoughts together. As far as being the only, or I wouldn't say the only one, because I'm not. It's not like the Little Rascals anymore, where if you get one color boy, it's like one in the neighborhood. And everybody likes him, by the way, because they made an exception of, even though he's accepted, like the Little Rascals, he's just an exception, you see? And it's good to be an exception, by the way, because the best compliment I can get from a skinhead is that, man, I used to chase spics growing up from my park. He says spick. I'm not taking it personal. He's giving me the best compliment he can give me. He still call me a spick. You see? And by the way, I'm not a spick, because even though my parents came from a third world country, I didn't. I grew up in America. You see? So I wouldn't consider myself spick because um let's just say that a spick don't have the proper English under their belts, I would say, right? Is that fair enough? To identify themselves that their first language is not English. You see? So you can pinpoint them by the way they speak is because they don't everybody knows that their uh their how they talk is that their English is not refined. You see? Because they didn't take the time, first of all, to actually evolve as a real person, as a real American, I would say, and not a real person, as a real American, being intertwined into a nation that is intertwined because we're best. It's like, I mean, oof, the real Americans are the Indians, and we can, in spite of that, we had to consider that the real Americans are the Indians, the Native Americans that actually were really discovered when Christopher Columbus came and discovered America. So, but that's a different avenue. Whether Christopher Columbus, I don't give a shit. Okay, about Indians and Americans is not real Americans, and I don't care about that. What I care is about that now we Americans. That's all I care. The history behind how they inherit, I would say, America, I don't care. But I do have to say that I'm happy for it. Why? It's because I don't have to do all that bloody killing to take over something that's already been taken over, and I'm actually enjoying it as an American. You see? So, and that's not my point. I'm trying to convey my point. It's taken me so long. It's 18 minutes past, and I haven't gotten straight to the point. So, my real point, my major point that it's taken me so long to get it out. I don't mind being the buckwheat of Paramus, or I wouldn't say the only buckwheat, but I wouldn't be. In other words, between a neighborhood like Inglewood, which is diverse, but it wouldn't be technically diverse. There's a lot of Spanish and blacks there. Versus Paramus, there's a lot of whites. You see? And the difference between being, I would say, considered special and exception is because you can intertwine, or I can intertwine, without sounding niggerish. You see? That's a phrase that people would get bent out of shape about. Niggerish means that you're not refined. You're not educated. You're known to like use some slant expressions. Your walk would tell it. The way you dress would tell that you're niggerish, or I would say a thug. Uh, Pretty much a different way of rephrasing it, rather than saying niggerish, because niggerish is not a really good word to say around people that are actually offensive about using that niggerish word. I would say, for a better way of saying it, I would say refined, or not looking like a thug, not speaking like a thug. That's my major point, you see? And so the way I say things, it could be a little bit of it could be expressed as being racist, or how I rephrase it, I can probably say it a little better, but it's some of the times I don't feel like sounding so refined and watering down my expression. So if I like to say niggerish, or if I like to say something that sounds a little bit racist, buckwheat, it may sound, and it may wind up being a little bit twisted. My major point is that I like to be around the best of the best. So, when I say that I like to be around the best of the best, does it sound like I wanna die in the hood? No, I wanna be around the best of the best. Intertwined with the best of the best. So it doesn't make a difference that it's more populated when you get Caucasians populate. But would you be able to intertwine with Caucasians being Latin American? That is my major point that would make sense of what I'm trying to convey. You see? Because not everyone can. Because they didn't take the time to learn a fancy word. Convey is a fancy word. Not everybody uses convey. There's different ways of saying conveyed. If you want to use semantics, I would say, by expressing yourself in a different ways of, you can say, like I said, you can say niggerish, but then you can clean it up and say a thug. You can say not refined. So there's different ways of actually saying it that will probably sound a little more tasteful. But technically, I don't give a shit. You see? Because I grew up in a bad neighborhood. And that's because I didn't have a choice. Because my mother came with a fourth grade level from the Dominican Republic. Fourth grade. And my father, being Puerto Rican, he still died as being a hillbilly Puerto Rican. Even if he knew Spanish, even if he knew English better than my mother, and my mother went to school for 6 years, and he would be able to understand English better than my mother, because he had to intertwine without going to school and learning the English. And he had some great ideas as well. He told me about how he worked in the factory, and he had some great ideas to tell the boss. And the boss did give him a bone which means is that his boss made millions off of his idea, but at least he got a little something for it. You know, see, bone with a little bit of meat. Because my father had he had a good idea, and it made money for the boss, even if he couldn't explain it in the sense that, because he came from Puerto Rico, and even if it's an American you don't need a visa to come here, you still consider a spick, you see, because a spick is from a third world country, and America and Puerto Rico, and you know, if you ever been to, let's just say that Puerto Rico is still a third world country. I wouldn't say country, but I would say a third world island. But that's a different topic. Different topic of how they evolved. That's actually the Americans buying Puerto Rico with food stamps. I'm keeping it real. Just because I'm Puerto Rican doesn't mean that I have to hide the point that Puerto Rico was bought with food stamps. America, like let's say Manhattan was bought with $24. Only because they told the Indians, we're tired of killing you. Take the $24 and get the fuck out of here. If not, we're going to have to kill you anyway. Because we want Manhattan. And there's nothing that the Indians can do except die by the millions. Because they refuse to give up America. I mean, not refuse to give up Manhattan. But that's a different topic. That's a different point. And I can dive into a point how Manhattan was bought with $24. But come on. Everybody, if anyone that has common sense was like, we don't want to kill you. Take the $24 and run. You see? I'm not going to make my point. It's taken me so long to get straight to the point. Why I made a video is almost 30 minutes and I'm running my mouth, deviating. And this is the reason why I make videos, because I want to stick to the point without rehearsing for it. You see, without having any notes. I'm still working on it. It's 30 minutes. And I don't think that it's almost 30 minutes. 2 minutes, it's almost like a minute and a half. And I didn't want to make this video long because I do have to go on with my day. So God bless and take care. See you on my next video. It would have to be a part 2 because I didn't go straight to the point. And I'm still working on it. Still working on sticking to making a point, straight to the point. If I don't have anyone interviewing me, I wouldn't stick to the point. God bless and take care.